In this demo, we're going to see a customer service product return scenario. So what happens today is that we have a user that would, or a customer that would go ahead and call in to say a call center, and they would go ahead and raise a concern. And so what would happen is the request would come from ServiceNow through a business event. We would go ahead and get the ticket details and then do some enrichment where we would get the assignment group and the customer details, and then we would go ahead and post an adaptive card. User would then be able to go ahead and manually sort of look up their issue, look up sort of the product and see if the defective was kind of warranted or known, and then be able to go ahead and respond to the customer manually about their request and having to go ahead and update ServiceNow manually. So now what we want to do instead is we have a new workflow, and this workflow is going to do some of the different tasks that we talked about before. But what it's now going to do is to hand off to an agent to make a call about the return and whether or not it warrants basically accepting that return and even providing a discount code for a future purchase as a way to help retain that customer. So we've got the same setup here where we've got a request, and we're going to go ahead and get the assignment group and the customer details, and we're then going to go ahead and just aggregate those in a compose action. Then what we're going to go ahead and do is we want to invoke the customer retention agent. So this is that new connector that exists. We can see kind of the API version here as well. And we're going to go ahead and take the details from ServiceNow, and we're going to go ahead and call this customer retention agent. Now, what we also need to do, and this is a temporary thing, this is not something that we will need to do long term, is that we do need to start a conversation thread with this agent before we can call it. And so here we can see that we've got an ID that we're passing in, and this is coming just from an HTTP action. So here we're just calling the project itself. So we've got a project here called return demo, and then we just have /openai/conversations. And the body doesn't really matter, but we pass in a payload, and we're using managed identity to go ahead and authenticate that call. From there, we'll actually go ahead and call that agent. We'll pass in that ID, and then we'll actually get a response from the agent itself. And we're just going to do some parsing to extract the contents, and then go ahead and send out an email to the customer. So let's head over to ServiceNow. We're going to create a new ticket. Now, in this case, our caller's name is Nathan, and we're just going to set this assignment group to customer service, and then we need to provide a short description. Customer, so here we're saying the customer received coffee with damaged packaging, and they naturally don't want to consume it. So we'll go ahead and click submit, and that should go ahead and kick off our workflow. So if we head over to our workflow, then we go to the run history here, we should see that we've got a run, so that's actively running. So that fires quite quickly. We now see that it's done. So we'll go ahead and kind of see what's happened here. We can go ahead and see the ServiceNow details that were returned in the email address for Nathan. Then we'll go ahead and make that call to the agent itself. So we're passing in this information, and then we're going to get a payload. Now this is fairly verbose, and that's why I have some parsing here. But ultimately, we can see that we're going to give Nathan 20% off their next purchase. So here we can come down and see this in the email itself, and it should be a little bit cleaner than what we saw before. But this would be an example of how we are able to take the, automated tasks and go ahead and automate them using agent. And this is just sort of a way that we can use Logic Apps to be able to respond to different events. In this case, a ServiceNow ticket, and partner with the broader Foundry ecosystem to deliver customer value. Now, one other thing also to mention, I showed you the Logic Apps runtime, but I think it's also worth taking a look at what happens inside of Foundry. So here I'm in that project that we connected to previously, and I was discussing the customer retention agent itself. And so that's what we can go ahead and click into here. And this is going to give us just some status about that particular agent. And what we can also do is go ahead and click into traces. And so this is kind of the equivalent of run history, but on the agent side. And we see a conversation, right? And that was that conversation that was initially created, and then we invoke the agent, we pass that ID along, and then any calls back and forth between Logic Apps and the agent are going to take place over that conversation, which is cool. So here we can see the exact input that was provided to the agent, right, including their email address and the ticket number, etc. And then we can see the response from the agent as well that went back to Logic Apps. So once again, just demonstrating the integration across Logic Apps and Foundry, and how these different solutions can work together and actually, share the observability and traceability across these interactions as well. So thanks for checking out this video, and hope you enjoyed it.